We're live.
Hello, everyone. Happy Mother's Day. Today is Sunday, May 10th. This is Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Iron Man Uno.
Well, Iron Man
The
1.
original.
So we are Diz Our Dream, and over here we have
Groot? No.
I am Russ.
down this way below Russ.
T-Money.
No, not T-Money, below Russ.
Oh, below Russ. Off to a bad start.
Off to a bad start. And
Let's start over.
Below us, we have
the T-Mach 1.
Three.
Or T-Mach 3.
T-Mach 3.
What? Oh,
You missed your cue.
Yeah, you were just sitting there. You were like,
maybe I was frozen.
you weren't.
So why don't you let it go? Let it go.
Mute him.
All right, let's do a quick chat check right now. We have Super Fluffy Yeti. We have Jamie, Lady Jamers. We have Big Disney Fan.
Hello.
We have Alyssa Stedberg. Hello, everyone. Arjons, Jeff Resendez. Welcome in.
Did we say hi to Jamie?
Jamie, Lady Jamers, yes.
Jamers? Okay.
Okay.
Donna.
Hi,
Hello.
Donna.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Yes,
So,
happy Mother's Day.
before we jump into this movie, I just wanted to go around and I wanted to get everybody's rank, like where this ranks in the Marvel universe for you, the Iron Man 1. Like, does it rank in the top third, the middle third, or the bottom third of the MCU movies?
I'd say for me, it's number 1.
All right.
Russ?
It's
the only one you've seen.
Russ?
Right?
It's probably in my top 5 or so.
Top 5?
Yeah, I would say so. Again, I'm not. It's not my favorite, but yeah, Iron Man's probably one of my favorite ones of all of them. So.
Okay.
Kenzie?
It's not really big for me. I'm more of a fan of the movies where everybody is like all together. So you've got like Avengers and that kind of stuff. Those are my favorites because you're getting that interaction between everyone.
Okay.
So I mean I liked this movie. I think it's really good, but I more enjoy movies that involve more crossing between characters.
Yep.
Okay.
Tracy?
What do you think, Dad?
I think it's into my top. It's one of my top ones, only for the fact that it's if this wasn't done right, if this movie itself wasn't done right, you wouldn't have anything else. I think, again, Jon Favreau, who pretty much took over the helm for the Mandalorian, he got it. He knew it. He did it right. He didn't go super serious like the DC universe tries, and he didn't go super silly where he didn't make it cartoonish. He didn't make it cartoonish, and he didn't make it too serious. So it's kind of like you had to balance of both.
Yeah. Right.
I think
I think if
the Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Sorry, didn't want to miss you.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, Tracy.
Mike Wheeler was
if
here.
Oh, hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
If Iron Man didn't come off the way it came off, none of the other movies would have made more sense. Because either they would have taken that tone of serious, super serious, and we would have ended up with what DC ended up trying to be. If we went too cartoonish, we would have seen something that wouldn't have lasted throughout the other movies. Because I think that's the problem, I think, with The Incredible Hulk itself. The Incredible Hulk movie, I think, almost got too cartoonish.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And cartoonish and serious. So this was that nice balance. And I think every director that came after him took that balance and said, "This, if we follow this archetype, we should do very well in this whole thing."
Yeah,
my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're going to go back, to the comic books, they very much follow the storyline from the comics of his origin of Iron Man, and so I think that's one reason why it stayed so well mixed in with all for the future, because it's very, very, very much based on the comics. So
Just want to welcome in Garrett, Amy, and Pam. Good seeing
Hello.
you. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Yeah, I thought it's probably in probably the top 5 movies. I thought they did a really good job with this. I remember when the preview came out, and I'm like, what are they doing? I thought it was gonna be really, really dumb, but
You mean for Iron Man?
yeah,
All
I
those
remember
years
when
ago? Okay.
I remember when it came out.
Okay. Well, that was a while ago.
It was
wasn't
a long
the
time
first
ago.
one. Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thought they did a really good job with it. I thought it set up Tony Stark to be the real cocky billionaire playboy, and then it shows how he became to realize that he could do better with his life, and he had more meaning in life. And I thought it just went through a lot of what the comic books covered in a short span of time. I thought they did a really good job of showing all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, what were your questions about the movie, since you just saw it for the first time?
Right. Well, I didn't want to go all the way to the end yet. I mean, I did have a question, like at the end, when they were like wanting him to say, they were trying to figure out who Iron Man was, and then he said he was, right? So did he do that to be funny, or he did that to actually tell him, okay, this is who I am? To lead into the second one?
Yeah.
I think he did it partly, his character, he's always kind of been that arrogant person, and nothing else matters, but what he's doing. And so, and again, going back to the comics, that's the way he always has been. He's an arrogant, his character is based off of Howard Hughes.
Oh, okay.
And that, that to where he starts out as the flyboy and the millionaire, and his success leads to all these great inventions and these things and this great technology, and then he kind of starts going a little nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of Tony Stark's storyline within the comics, is that he starts out, he's this billionaire tech company weapons manufacturer that he's got all this power, and he doesn't care anything about anybody else but himself and what his company's doing, and being the great person that he is.
Right.
And of course, by the end of the movie, I feel like he's learned from that, and he's becoming a hero. But at the same time, I think he wants that recognition, and he wants that, he wants to be a hero. And so he does. He says, "Yeah, well, I am Iron Man." Now, in the comics, they don't say that. They say that he's just the bodyguard. And in fact, there's a line at the end where he's talking to Coulson about, "Hey, do you think this storyline about being my bodyguard, does that make sense?" And then he turns it. So that's
Oh.
Hi, Stacy. Happy Mother's Day. Welcome in.
I think one of the things about him is that a part of it is that he does want that recognition, but I also feel like he just doesn't want to lie to people, because I feel like he wanted to be honest with people regarding, he wanted to stop weapon manufacturing. He wanted to do what was right for the people, and I feel like he thought it's better for people to just know,
right? So
rather than to make it difficult.
Another question I had is the guy who kind of took over for his father. So
Obadiah Stane.
What's his name?
Obadiah Stane.
Obadiah.
Okay, so did he it seemed like he was trying to help him out or whatever, but I guess we learned then that he actually had turned on him a long time ago, right to the beginning of the movie. It's when I first watched it the first time, I thought he turned on him when he said he didn't want to manufacture weapons anymore. But I learned now from watching it the second time, he had actually wanted those guys to kill him in the first place. So what did he want? He wanted him to show them how to build that bomb, and then he wanted them to kill him. The Jericho.
Well, they're a weapons manufacturer.
Yes.
They're selling weapons to both sides. They're playing both sides.
But
That's what that meant.
But it didn't seem like Tony
didn't know about it,
both sides. He didn't know they were selling to both sides, but the Obadiah did.
Yes.
He knew there was money in that.
Right.
But why did he want him to kill Tony?
Well, Obadiah knew that Tony wouldn't go along with it. He knew that even though Tony is this arrogant person, he still has a good heart, and he's still a good person, and he knew that Tony wouldn't go along with it. So and Tony, Obadiah took over when Tony was still really young, and so he was running the company. And well, then when Tony got old enough and graduated from MIT and became this tech giant that knows all of this stuff,
gotten everything.
He would have he lost all of his power basically, and so Obadiah is now wanting his power back, and so yeah.
And then just one more comment I want to make. I love the part when the guy said he was trying to get that scientist or whatever to build it. And he couldn't build that magnet or whatever it was, the power source. And he said Tony Stark did it, and
built this thing in a cave.
Scraps. And he's like, I'm not Tony Stark. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I know. Go ahead, Tracy.
Obadiah Stane. I mean, he paid those terrorists, the 10 rings terrorists, to off Tony Stark. If you listen to him during that when Pepper Potts is downloading everything and she translated, they weren't paid to keep Tony Stark alive. They weren't paid. Their expectation was not to actually have Tony Stark build a Jericho bomb. Only after they found out who Tony Stark was in that Jeep, they were just paid to hit that caravan, kill everybody in that caravan, and Obadiah Stane would have just came back and said, Tony Stark was killed over in Afghanistan, and he just comes over and pretty much takes over the company like he did when Tony's father was killed. So it was a power play on Obadiah Stane's part, and that's pretty much all it was. Once the 10 Rings guys found out who Tony was, they used it to his advantage. One, they wanted more money from Obadiah. Two, they wanted the Jericho rocket from the parts that were currently there.
Yeah.
So Obadiah Staines, yes, he was selling to both sides of it, and I don't think Tony even knew about it. I think a lot of it was he just wanted control of that power. It was a total power play.
Yeah.
Have a great day, Stacy. Thank you for popping in.
Yes, thank you. So
right,
who was that? The guy with the little glasses, the little round glasses that kind of helped him, and how did he get pulled into all of it? He wasn't.
He was a
prisoner. He was a prisoner.
He was a prisoner from a local town, I believe.
Yeah, that's Jensen. He was a local doctor from one of the towns that had already been taken over by the terrorists and taken capture because he was a doctor. And yeah.
And everybody.
Continue.
People need, warriors need doctors, so they took a doctor. And if you listen to him, his game plan and the doctor's game plan was to die coming out of there anyway.
Yeah.
Whether or not he knew which way he was going to die or whatever, his game plan was to die on that escape, because he said he was going to go and see his family again.
Right.
He knew his family was already dead.
His goal was to save Tony, because he knew Tony was smart and he knew that the world needed him.
Yeah.
And he knew he was going to. And I think I wrote this down in my notes, but Pepper and Jensen are the unsung heroes of this movie, because nothing would have come from anything without the two of them.
Yep.
Without both of their contributions to Tony fighting, he wouldn't have been able to survive. So
what was the other name you said?
Pepper,
and who else?
Jensen.
Who was that?
the doctor.
Oh, the doctor. Okay, come on.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
And you're killing me. yeah,
So
I wrote down
here's a
that.
question I have
Mhm.
about the movie. So you know how Rhodey and Tony are really close. You know, they have that relationship. They're both in that same caravan that got attacked. Do you think
No, they're
Rhodey
not.
would have what's that?
No,
Rhodey
they're
was in a
not.
different
Yeah, they're in the
caravan.
caravan. They're just on the same Jeep.
They're not in the
Yeah,
same
they're not in
Jeep,
the
but they're in the
same
same caravan. Do you think
Mhm.
Rhodey
Well, obviously,
would have left without knowing where Tony Stark was?
So there is a deleted scene, and in fact, it's on Disney Plus if you want to go back and watch it. But there is a deleted scene where Rhodey is in the Jeep, like 2 or 3 Jeeps ahead, and there, he's getting shot out. He jumps up on the 50 cal on top of the Jeep, and their Jeep gets hit by like a grenade or something, and it knocks him out. And so that's why Tony, then runs from where he's at to the rock.
Oh
And
yeah.
before the little, before he gets hit.
Yeah.
So that they cut that out of the final scene for timing, but that kind of explains what happened to Rhodey. So Rhodey then later on wakes back up and is able to get back and get back to the base and get help. So
Right. Yeah, because they all, some of them. I mean, those guys got away.
Right.
They didn't really want. I guess they didn't want them. So
now in the comics, Rhodey actually gets captured and taken with them, and he becomes a POW as well.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how their relationship starts with him and Rhodey, is they're POWs together. So
okay. Yeah, I was surprised that he said he was away for 3 months. That was a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Welcome in,
well,
Tina.
also,
Welcome in, Piglet Roo loves Disney. Good to see you guys. Go ahead, Tracy.
And Tina.
He's coughing.
Tina.
You mean
Um,
Piglet Trusky?
Piglet Trusky.
Piglet Trusky.
I like the way that they did it, where the movie starts out almost 1/5 into what the storyline is, and then you backtrack, and then you catch up to where it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it gave you a different flair for that movie, and I think it was needed.
It's good screenwriting. It's good writing, and I really like it.
Yeah.
John Favreau knows what he's doing.
Oh, totally. I'm a really big nerd for like cinematography and the way things are shot. And I feel like there are a lot of scenes in this movie that are just very well shot. Like you can tell that they put a lot of effort into certain scenes, visually wise. And I really like that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So another thing that I wrote, I mean, if we're just gonna like talk about things that we like about it, if you want to do that.
Yeah.
So I wrote down that I really liked, I just really like when Phil Coulson shows up. Like I just love him in general.
Yeah.
But I really love when he shows up and he's like, well, I'm with this like really like long name company. And then I wrote down
Homeland.
Yeah, like it's super long. And I actually wrote down a list of moments that made me emotional during the movie, because I get very emotional during movies. I'm a big dork, and so I have 3 moments. The one four actually. The moment when he's putting the suit on for the first time and you're seeing it being put together, because that is just such a like monumental moment. It's the creation of Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And like with that red and that gold that from later movies, it's just like a really good scene that I love. When he goes and he saves those people in Afghanistan and fights those people, I really love that scene. And then when Coulson says, just call a shield, because that is the first time you're ever hearing that.
Yeah.
And it is the beginning of something insanely huge. And you don't even know it really.
Right.
You know? The first time you hear that, you're just like, oh, it's just, they came up with a name.
So
she still doesn't know what shield is, Kenzie.
When did that happen? Did I must have missed that part.
At the
when
end.
did that happen?
Coulson's talking to Pepper at the end, and she starts saying the name or something like that, and he goes, just call it shield. Shield is the
Strategic Homeland Initiative.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously
the thing that Nick Fury's in charge of.
Yeah.
Obviously the thing that makes me most emotional is when he does say, I am Iron Man, because that is like, I think this movie is so monumental, and it's the beginning of an era, like a movie, like, I don't want to say like movie renaissance, but it's the beginning of something really big, and you don't even really know it when you're first watching, and then it just becomes something so much bigger.
Right.
And that's what I really like about this movie, is that it is the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Keystone.
The thing the whole character of Coulson was actually not even supposed to be there. Jon Favreau originally, he was just supposed to be like an extra, and not an extra, but I mean his part was like an extra, and then Jon Favreau wrote it in to where he got a bigger part. And what's the guy's name that plays him? I forget his name.
Clark Gray.
Yeah, that he just played it so well that he expanded it, and now Coulson is just like one of the fan favorites.
He's in every movie.
He's in almost every movie, and then they've got the
Clark
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and and he's just become such a huge character now, and I just think that's kind of neat how it just evolved into that, just because he played that so well, and but yeah.
Was he the guy that was in that show with Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. And what was his name again?
And Angie, you would probably
Coulson.
you would probably enjoy Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, it's very sci-fi, but I mean it's a really good show, so you would probably enjoy that.
I actually feel bad because I haven't watched.
And it is part of the MCU storyline, so it's just kind of a side storyline. So
yeah.
What movie does Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. take place after? I forget.
I'm thinking
because I
that
haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet.
I'm thinking that it's after Winter Soldier that they kind of start, because it's right around
Avengers.
the time that is it around Avengers? Okay.
It's after Avengers, because the whole idea behind the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that Coulson's dead, and they bring him back to life. But he leaves this clandestine team. I watched the first season. I watched up until season 1.5. I think the whole idea. I think the second season, you've seen some of the stuff from. They had bleed over from Thor: The Dark World. They had some stuff in there.
Well, they bleed over from Civil War and a few other.
But the whole idea is that the agents or the Avengers themselves can't know that Coulson's alive, because if they know that Coulson's alive, they know that Nick Fury played him in the Avengers. He played all of them, because he used the death of Coulson to bring that group together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one of the other things that I like, and Kenzie kind of touched on it, was that with that this is the beginning of the MCU, that Marvel, this was their first movie ever as their own studio. Now there had been other Marvel movies that they had worked on with other studios, but this was the first time that they had ever done anything on their own, and they did it right by bringing the entire movie staff, like all the directors, all the producers, all of them came and they set up offices at Marvel, like at Marvel headquarters. Like they had their own Marvel, they were there. So they were able to work with all of the comic book writers. They were able to, work with all the comic book staff. And it was a cumulative process. It's not, okay, well, the comic book people are here, the movie people are here, and the administrative people are in the middle and in charge, and there's not a wall there. Everybody was working on the project together. And I really feel like that was why it became such a success that it has, because they have stuck so well with the comics. Now they've deviated here and there, but it's always been a team effort, and Marvel has just been very, very open to the creativity of with their characters, but yet at the same time they're there to offer and say, okay, well, this is what Iron Man would do or wouldn't do, and they're there for for that support. So I think that's why it just works.
And you don't have any miscommunication between them, because there's always that chance that you're going to get that miscommunication between the screenwriters and the comic book writers. So I think it's also really good that they did that, because there was no chance for people to get mad.
Mhm.
You know?
Well, and again, it's like I said, they have followed the comics so well, and so a lot of the fans even are like, well, this is great because they are following these stories that we know and love. Now they've obviously changed it to match the times. Iron Man was created during the '60s when Vietnam was going on, and and he originally was fighting the Viet Cong and getting captured by the Vietnamese, and so it's funny that Stan Lee created the character, and I even read a quote that I created this character as this arrogant, egotistical, guy that no one would like, and he's a weapons manufacturer in the middle of a wartime, in our country. Everybody's going to hate him, but we're going to shove him down your throat so that you'll learn to love him and be able to relate with him. And that's what's happened, and so that's why he's such a beloved character, and and it's just grown from there. So
Yeah.
I'm going to throw something out there. I'm going to see if anybody has a answer for this. We hear Jarvis in this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
We hear the voice of Jarvis. Did they cast that voice knowing that he would be the Vision? How many movies down the line?
No, I don't think that they had that thought. I mean, I just think that they, that grew. Jarvis was originally Howard Stark's butler or valet,
right?
And in the comics, that's who he was, and I think that's where that name comes from. Is that Tony just knew who Jarvis was, and grew up with Jarvis, and they may have had a connection. I don't know, but yeah, I just think that was a coincidence, and because it worked out so well within the MCU. I just feel like that's it just worked. So yeah.
I mean, I thought he played a good. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I thought he fit that Vision character very well.
Oh yeah.
In my mind, I thought he had the height, he had the features, he had the voice. Yeah.
When was he in it?
He's the computer.
Oh.
The computer system that makes his
the AI.
Yeah.
Got it.
Artificial intelligence.
Okay. Yeah.
And Jarvis's voice is like
Paul Bethany. Yes. Thank you, Jamie. Paul Bethany.
Yeah. Jarvis.
Go ahead.
Okay. Jarvis's voice is like one of the most recognizable and iconic things in Marvel itself.
Really?
Yeah, because everybody knows when you hear that voice, you know that that's Jarvis with Tony Stark. Like that has always been a thing. So, and then Jarvis also becomes a beloved character among everybody, even though he's basically just a voice that you hear that later on becomes something so much more.
Okay.
Some people I did not realize that Paul Bethany voiced Vision. I only attached him to the role once he became an actor. Okay. Super fluffy Yeti. Pardon me.
You need some water?
I do.
Why don't you grab some real quick?
I don't want to miss this.
But Jarvis also came down and he was in Agent Carter, the other ABC spinoff that they were trying to do. So he's the only voice actor or actor himself to make it from Agent Carter over to the cinematic universe, and that was into the last movie. That was the last one he was in. And even if Paul Bentley was a 5'2" scrawny little guy, doesn't mean they wouldn't have casted a perfect that would fit the Vision mold that they wanted and voiced over Paul Bentley's voice, because I mean, you look at in Age of Ultron, James Spader's voice works perfectly for Ultron, and none of that was Spader, And you go back to the other nerd stuff. James Earl Jones wasn't in any of that costume for Darth Vader, but he did the
Right.
voiceover for it all. So we've had voiceover forever. So I think
Same thing with Mandalorian. He wasn't in that suit. He just did
The
that
whole
voiceover.
time.
Yep.
Oh,
He
really?
wasn't in it. He was only in that one scene where they take his helmet off.
No way.
Well, he's been in other scenes, but what they're saying is, as long as you have a body type that matches the main actor,
It doesn't matter who's in the suit. Yeah.
Yep.
correct.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Interesting.
So while we were watching, Dad pointed out something really interesting about Ironmonger's suit. Is that it looks very similar to Hulkbuster later on. That shape wise on the top and that helmet, it looks very similar to the Hulkbuster.
Mm-hmm.
And then the voice, I don't know, this was just me personally, but I feel like Obadiah's voice when he's in the suit, it just sounds really weirdly like Ultron. Like, at least that's what I heard. I thought it sounded really weirdly similar to Ultron's voice.
Yeah,
like the way that he
It's
talks.
just that computerized.
Yeah.
The computerized.
But not
voice,
even just that. It's like his like phrasing of the way that he said things so like confidently, and the phrasing of it itself. It was just very similar to Ultron's phrasing and voicing.
Now that suit, did somebody build, was that the third one or the fourth one? Like, did they start building one over in Afghanistan and then move it over?
No. All right. So when you're talking suits, you have the Mach 1. The Mach 1 is the suit that he made in the cave, right?
Yes.
That's Mach 1.
Yes.
Mach 2 is the silver one that Tony makes in his basement, the first one he takes out for a flight. Mach 3 is the one that's painted and the one that he takes out and fights over in Afghanistan and takes out the warlords. Because you have Mach 1, the old first generation, Mach 2, the silver one. That's the one that Rhodey turns to and says, next time. So that's why the Mach 2 was never, I like when we were watching, I was like, oh, maybe he does paint the Mach 2. And then I remember that Rhodey looks at the old Mach 2 and says, next time I get to take it, I'm going to take that for a spin. So the Mach 3 is what Tony uses from Iron Man 1 and into Iron Man 2. But there's other models in there, and that model would, like the suitcase model is a different model. And by the time you get to
there are hundreds of versions.
Really?
Of the suit.
Because that last one that guy that Obadiah was in, that one was a lot bigger than the red.
That one is actually called Ironmonger. That is not one that Tony built at all. That all was Obadiah Stane design. It's
but
one
he
model.
Didn't use his plans. He didn't. I thought he used his plans
He took the suit from Afghanistan and altered it, made it bigger, made it strong.
Okay.
So
that's what I was thinking.
More intense than the original.
Got it.
By the time.
Me personally, I think Mach 1 is so funny looking. Like him fighting in Mach 1.
Yeah, I didn't think it was the same one. And it was blown to smithereens. Yeah.
It's meant to be crude and
sure.
Because it's his first one. But yeah.
What, Dan?
By the time you get to Iron Man 3, he has so many different versions of that suit, and the whole idea behind the end of 3 is that he destroys them all.
Oh, okay.
So when you get to 3, he destroys them all.
We're spoiling everything for Ange, but it's okay.
No, that's okay. Because he comes back after 3 in other movies, right?
No.
Right. So
he dies.
Yeah.
He dies in Iron Man 3.
Once you get to Endgame, once you get to Infinity War and Endgame, he doesn't have any more different suits per se. He has what's called the nanotech suit, and that decides to do what he wants it to do.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I feel like Mach 1, because I remember watching it, and cinematic moment that I really love is when all of them are outside of that cave with their guns, and you just see that arc reactor. And that's the only thing you see. And I feel like that is such an amazing cinematic moment. And you just see him emerge from that. Obviously, it looks a little wonky because he's in this massive Mach 1 suit, but it's just such an intense moment because that is kind of like him becoming like into that and learning how to fight in something like that.
Yeah.
I just love that moment where you see that arc reactor.
Yeah, and those guys are like running from it. You know, at first they're firing at him, then they're like, "Okay, this isn't working. We're out of here."
Jonathan Chong says, "I feel that's how the Hulkbusters came about from his experience with the big suit." Yeah, you'll get to that in the Avengers movies where he shows what his Hulkbuster suit looks like.
Is that in Ultron? I believe. First see Hulkbuster.
Yes. No, it's with the Scarlet.
Age of Ultron.
It's the one
Age
with
of Ultron.
Yeah, that's Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's in Infinity War.
Which there's an entire history in the comics about the Hulkbuster suit too that I'll get into when we get there. But yeah.
Oh, totally. I love that scene in those later movies when you see that Hulkbuster come out and you're like, oh, that's like you just think about those older movies. I love that moment when you see that Hulkbuster.
I didn't know Peter Billingsley.
Peter Billingsley, Ralphie. Yes, Ralphie's been in a lot of movies that Jon Favreau's done.
Yeah.
So what part did he play?
I can't remember what he played in Iron Man, but I know in Elf he plays one of the elves.
Yes.
Because Jon Favreau directed Elf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jon Favreau has I don't keep up to date with like directors and stuff like that. I know I should. Being a movie nerd, I should be more up to date with like directors and stuff like that. But for some reason, I mainly look at like actor wise. But Jon Favreau's like directed my whole life. I swear, he's done so much.
Friends, Rudy, Jon Favreau's been in a lot. Tim Pruitt, welcome in. Thank you.
And that's when I first saw him in Friends. I remember that.
Really?
But he was in Rudy. He was the brother to Rudy.
Yep.
Sean Astin.
I was sitting there watching it last night, watching Iron Man last night, and it was like, man, Robert Downey Jr. looks just so young in this, and Jon Favreau is like real skinny and young, and it's just like
he was real
skinny.
I
was just going to say that. Yeah.
I didn't even hardly recognize him.
Yeah.
I know.
I love that. I love that character.
Jon Favreau,
he's always there.
Jon Favreau's always had the issues with weight.
Yeah.
He's gone up, he's gone down, he's gone up, he's gone down. Just like almost anybody who has issues with weight, myself included.
Yeah.
You can go down, you feel good, you're like, oh, I can keep this up, and next thing you know, you're like 2 or 3 months later, and you're like, what the hell happened to this? Who the heck is drying my jeans?
This morning, please don't talk about weight problems.
Super Fluffy Yeti says Peter was one of the scientists who couldn't reproduce Tony's work and was yelled at by
okay. Oh, that's the guy that says I'm not I'm not Tony Stark. That's the guy that says
was that Peter Billingsley that said that? No way.
That guy looks so old.
He did.
Wow.
I guess I look old.
He'll shoot his eye out. He should have looked at him and said, Obadiah, but I could shoot my eye out.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, you see Tony Stark walking with his bodyguards, and you see him with Happy Hogan, walking. And then you see him on we were watching that Mandalorian talk. He looks so much different now than he did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau,
he had clean shaven. He was skinny. He was like bodyguard shape. And now he's just a big producer,
And it's funny because since I haven't seen I haven't seen any of the movies, Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. He looked older to me because I remember him in like 80s movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the movies were, to be honest with you, but like the 16 Candles type movies. He wasn't in that one, but movies like that, like from the 80s.
Yeah.
When he was really young then, Too funny.
Well, I don't know if you guys knew this either, but originally Robert Downey Jr. was not going to be cast as Tony Stark, they had like a long list of other actors. Like,
really,
actually, Nicolas Cage was the first one that they
Oh my
Really?
gosh, I
were
would
looking
not
at.
watch
And
Marvel. I wouldn't watch a
oh
single
my
movie.
goodness! Well, here I've got a list. So
Wow,
it was
less
going to
than
be
zero,
Nicolas
yes.
Cage. Then it was going to be Tom Cruise.
What?
That would
Then
be
they looked
even
at
worse.
Then they looked at Hugh Jackman, but he was already Wolverine.
Yeah.
Clive Owen, Sam Rockwell, who actually ends up being Justin Hammer later on. Timothy Oliver. Yeah. So those all were originally, they had looked at all those guys before they settled on Robert Downey Jr. And
Interesting.
and Jon Favreau actually said that he decided on Robert Downey Jr. because of his background as kind of a troublemaker, in
Right.
real life.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what they wanted that same feel. Because they knew he
Yes.
could pull it off.
Yeah. And that actor, like that Robert Downey Jr., he got himself into some trouble for a while. So was it before he
Yeah.
was cast as Iron Man or
Yes.
after?
Before.
Right.
'cause
Yeah.
he
It was
Way
when
before.
he was younger. When he was younger, he got in
Right.
trouble and yeah.
Believe it or not, I actually read a news story, and it was a magazine a couple years ago. You know who actually helped out a lot of those troubled actors was Gary Shandling. Gary
Really?
Shandling was big into boxing as a way of blowing off whatever steam, and that's, I think, where Robert Downey Jr., Jon Favreau, and a couple of those other guys got together with Gary Shandling, who actually took it and changed and gave him something other than what was they were focusing on. So, and if I'm not mistaken, Robert Downey, Gary Shandling was a big influence, and that's why Gary Shandling is in the second and third movies. Um, I think he was a friend of all of these guys, and it kind of helped Robert Downey Jr. out, having him something else to go on to. That's why I think you see the boxing scene in the second movie.
Okay.
That's something that Gary brought into that whole life.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Mike Polito. It's good to see you.
Hey, Mike Polito.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, hey, Mike.
Out of all the names you read, Russ, I think they picked the right actor for the role.
I do too. Yeah, I mean,
I cannot see Nicolas Cage
No.
in that role. It just.
I feel like if Nicolas Cage had that role, there would not be any other Marvel movies. Like I'm not a fan of Nicolas Cage.
And they were looking to do an Iron Man movie years before they actually got to this set or this version. They had multiple different other ideas, and so it just worked out the way it did.
Yeah.
But, of course, then Nick Cage went on to be Ghost Rider, which was a total flop. But
horrible.
I know.
I don't even know what that is.
Anything Nicolas Cage has been.
Yeah, you don't even need to
Anything
see
he's
it.
been in.
It's terrible.
Well, Nicolas Cage has some good. Nicolas Cage has some good movies. It's a problem is
Moonstruck.
Nicolas
Raising
Cage-
Arizona.
Moonstruck.
Well,
But Nicolas Cage,
they went to Nick Cage first because that's when he was really popular. That's when they were looking at doing these movies. So
Yeah.
he was one of the first choices. And then same with Tom Cruise. You wouldn't think Tom Cruise would make a good Iron Man, but again, he was the popular person then, so
Right.
so they
That's
wanted whoever
funny.
they could get. So
I really cannot imagine. I can't imagine a single other person playing Iron Man, like being that face
now,
of Marvel.
but
Obviously, if it had
I
been
could
someone else, we would be saying the same thing about that person because it was so long. But I feel like, Robert Downey Jr. just has like a way about him. He just really worked.
Yeah, they didn't get Charlie Sheen for it, right?
oh my God.
I know, right?
If Tom Cruise had been playing him, my mother would not watch a single movie.
Yeah. Like with Nicolas Cage, he had some really good movies. And I think what happened is I think he got in problems with the IRS and paying back taxes, and he just took anything and everything that would give him a payroll. So the problem is when you start taking anything and everything, it dilutes your film cred. So it almost gets to a point. I mean, if you watch Saturday Night Live, and I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a long time now, but they actually do a skit on on Nicolas Cage during the Weekend Update because
Oh, really?
he'll mention a movie. They have a character who'll play him, and it was like, oh, this movie's coming out. Why am I in this movie? Because he's in almost everything. Same thing with, I mean, Sam Jackson is also in a lot of movies, but he's also, you know, he hasn't hitting bad flop movies. I mean, he might have had one or two, but
Yeah.
Cage just went off the deep end. And I think if you want to see a bad Nicolas Cage movie, watch Ghost Rider 2, and that's pretty bad. I can watch Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider 2 was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
He was spending money faster than he was making money. That was his problem. He was buying, like, he was big into Elvis. He was trying to buy all this Elvis memorabilia and even married Priscilla. No, not Priscilla.
Lisa Marie?
Lisa Marie.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah, I think he.
So.
Yes, that's true. He's supposed to be the Tiger King in the movie.
Yeah.
So Kenzie kind of touched on her favorite part, but what's everybody's favorite parts of the Iron Man?
Favorite parts?
Yeah.
Thank you, Russ, for getting us back into shape.
Yeah, thank you.
Back in it.
Well,
I don't want to spend the rest of the stream talking about Nick Cage.
I'm really tired of talking about
thank you. We needed somebody like you, Russ, to bring us back in.
Realistic.
My favorite part was when he's testing out the suit, and he's you know,
all
he's wrecking all his cars, and he's you know, it's just, I think it's just that humorous aspect of the movies is what I enjoy. I like a little comedy aspect. You know, he's like flying and he flies backwards, or you know, the thing's ready to give.
I was gonna say, I love the running gag with the fire extinguisher.
Yes. Yes.
I just think it's hilarious. And I also like the where he goes back and he's fighting, you know, in the town and fighting back, you know, when he first comes back with the Mark III, and he's, you know, he's just so bad, you know, he's getting shot at, and he's like, who cares, you know? But then he like gets shot by the tank, you know, and then stands up and shoots that little bitty rocket out, and then it walks away and he just explodes behind him. You know, it's just iconic, you know. I just think it's great.
That's moment as well. I really love that when he's just like turns around when you see that happen behind him. It's really cool.
Yeah.
People think Jeff Bridges was a good villain.
I think he did. Considering that this is the dude, all right, this is the dude, and he plays a pretty good villain in Iron Man. And if anybody doesn't know who the dude is, you got to watch something.
Jeff Bridges has been around for a long time. He's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, he was in the original Tron movie, for crying out loud.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And they de-aged him for that, for the Tron, the Tron remake. The Tron Legacy. They actually de-aged him for the face.
Yeah.
I actually like Tron Legacy, so he played a good villain in that too, and a hero.
I also think that Kenzie brought up a good point as far as with Happy and Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tony, he's such a strong character that, you know, between Happy and Tony and Rhodey, you know, he needs those supporters because otherwise he's by himself, and I think he would go over the edge. You know, I think he would push things too far, and I think he needs them to keep him grounded and reel him back, you know, from all that he can do. You know, and even over all of the movies, you know, War Machine becomes his best friend, and so same in the comics. He and War Machine are just, you know, inseparable almost all the time. Right. And you know, I just feel like they have that family and friend dynamic that he has to have, and I think they're even just as important characters as Tony is. So.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of moments where if Tony didn't have that support, he wouldn't be Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And like even later on, So Lady Jamers wants to know who made the better roadie.
Are there going to be multiple roadies now?
The guy you saw for
Well,
Rosie movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they changed them out.
Don Cheadle takes over in the rest of the movies.
Okay.
And in fact, what's the guy's name that plays Roadie in this one?
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Yeah.
Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard was actually the first actor cast for this movie.
Correct.
By Jon Favreau.
Right.
Really?
And he was the highest paid actor in Iron Man.
Really?
And then he was told that he was going to be able to be Rhodey in the other ones, and then I think somebody made a decision to cut him out. So.
Well, I think what happened there is when they looked at Iron Man, who Terrence Howard had a bigger name at the point when this came out. So Terrence Howard could ask for more money. When Robert Downey Jr. came in and he actually blew the part away, when it came time for number 2, Robert Downey Jr. was like, "Hey, listen, I carried that first one. Pay me more."
Yeah.
They had to get that money from somewhere, and they went back to Terrence Howard and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to need you to take a pay cut." And Terrence was like, "No, I'm not going to take a pay cut." And they were like, "Well, listen, you're not the star. We can recast you." And that's exactly what they did. I think Don Cheadle did a great job coming up, being number 2 that. But do I think Terrence Howard got the short end of the stick? Maybe. But Terrence Howard didn't realize that, he might have had a bigger part in the second movie if he had just taken a pay cut and gotten through the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
He's in a bunch of other movies later on. He's in those Infinity War and all those other movies. Like, he is important. He's not.
Oh yeah, well he is War Machine.
Yeah. But he's War Machine, so. And he's there. And I really like Don Cheadle. I think he does a really good job.
Stick to the cards.
I like that.
So he was the one that was, like, giving him directions and stuff.
Stick to the cards, Tony.
Okay. Yes.
I do like, one of my other favorite scenes is when he finally gets back to the States, and this is something else that I don't know if you guys knew, that they Jon Favreau let the cast basically ad-lib most of their lines for this movie, and so I love the scene where they're getting off the plane, and of course Tony's got his sling in the arm, or his arm in the sling, and he they get in the car and well, we got to take you to the hospital. No, I want an American cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I want you to call a press conference.
Yes.
Cheeseburger first. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then cheeseburgers become a thing later. Like that. Like
well, exactly.
Yeah.
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 And it's even more emotional when you think about Happy with Tony's daughter with the cheeseburger at the very end of that movie. It's like and then Happy just becomes his, like, Happy in general, his character, I love him. Because he has that interaction with Tony, but he also has that interaction with Peter Parker. And then he's also has that interaction where he's like this big teddy bear towards Tony's daughter and is like this amazing, like, uncle. Like, I just really love.
I was gonna say he's kind of the big brother or the uncle character that
right.
everybody knows.
Totally.
So, and again, that's the way he is in the comics as well. Him and Pepper, they are the glue that hold Tony together. So
they're the ones that make sure Tony doesn't have a mental breakdown, even though it'll probably end up happening anyways.
Super Fluffy Yeti says casting directors ask before casting if they can have a full set amount so they can take away and add to as necessary to how much actors will be getting paid. Exceptions are leads. Yeah, so I think Terrence Howard would have still made a pretty good
War Machine.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't deny that Don Cheadle did it great, because if you've watched anything with Don Cheadle, he's got great comic and drama skills no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever, I don't know how many, if you ever watched Ocean's 11, he was in Ocean's 11. He played a great character in Ocean's 11 and pulled off a perfect British accent there, so Don Cheadle's got some chops.
Yeah.
and they ended up with a better. I mean,
well, and he's able to
Okay.
stand up with Robert Downey Jr. with his one-liners. That's the main thing.
Exactly.
They play off each other so well. So,
totally.
yeah.
I feel like Robert Downey Jr., you like if he's in a movie, you have to let him ad lib. Like I feel like any movie,
Yeah.
it's impossible to hold him to a script.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of things that he's been in. I mainly know him as Tony. But I know that they had that like Dr. Dolittle movie that came out, I think last year or earlier this year. I really don't remember it. I didn't see it.
I like his Sherlock Holmes movies. But yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So he does that.
Sherlock Holmes is good.
And one of my favorite things is that you look at, Marvel in itself, and you have how many Sherlocks? You've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock. You've got Tony Stark, Sherlock, and I think there's one other, but I don't remember who it is. But
there's another guy.
there's another
American.
person
It was
who's played Sherlock.
Elementary. There was a show on CBS called Elementary. That was a different take on it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I just find it funny.
Okay,
So Angela, there is a question.
My favorite part. So I liked it when he came and he liberated that town too. That was my favorite part. Yeah. So
I think my favorite. I don't even think I said my favorite part. Did I?
What's yours, Kenzie?
I can't remember if I said it or not.
Well, you had mentioned when he's fighting from out of the cave and then coming back.
I think that is
again.
That's a beautiful cinematic moment. But I feel like any of the interactions between Tony and like Pepper or Rhodey, those interactions that he has with people, I feel like those are really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I do also love the moment when he finds the proof that Tony Stark has a heart. I really love that moment when he sees that.
Yeah. which also plays in at the end.
Yep.
Which also plays in at the very, very end. Not going to give any spoilers. But yeah.
What is it?
Nothing.
Oh, the end of the whole series?
The end. The very end.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is very emotional, but yes.
Yeah.
Kay is proud of you.
I like this, Angie, because that you haven't seen these because it's it just kind of brings a new perspective,
Right.
I like it.
Something new, So I think it's cool.
Yeah. So next we're doing Iron Man 2, right? That's what we decided.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're gonna skip the Incredible Hulk and then move on to Iron Man 2. So
on whose channel?
Let me look up.
No, Tracy's.
I'm gonna go. Yeah,
right?
I believe it is.
Double check what I sent you. I forget.
Yeah, I'm double checking.
Tracy, you're next.
Tracy, me, Russ. That is the order that we
for
go
next
in.
week. Yes,
So
this is going to be a weekly thing.
There.
Yeah.
Okay. So next week on Tracy Glen's channel, we're going to discuss Iron Man 2. Real quick, we're running out of time, but we'll go around the clock and we'll go around the screen and we'll see what we got coming up. So Russ, you are up.
Well, yesterday was my first show for What in the World with Russ, and we had a lot of fun. And come back next week, we're going to do a giveaway for my 100 subscriber giveaway. And then also, I dropped a video for a recipe tag that I was put in with some cheddar biscuits that I hope you guys would really like. And then I'm also working on a silly project for this weekend, for this coming Saturday. And I think you guys will all like it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I think, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, but yeah. So just having fun.
Cool.
Yes.
Kenzie?
So tomorrow, 4:30 to 5:30 on my channel, Ange and Amy are going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about our top 10 restaurants in Disney. And then I'm editing a video currently that should be posted at some point this week because I've been dedicating a lot of time to editing with my new computer. It's really nice. I really like it. So I've been editing a lot more. Yeah. So, and then that's all I can really think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tracy?
Is it my turn?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, Candy Mom and Stacy.
Hi, Kenny Mom. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy
And
Rogers.
Goofy. Welcome to the end of the stream.
Yeah. Thursday, doing a stream. It's called a reorganization of Walt Disney World. A different take on something. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna have at least one guest on there. I'll probably gonna ask somebody else to join or two. If not, we'll have fun with how it all comes out. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. But other than Friday night pizza night, and I think that's going to be on Kenzie Days' stream this week.
Is it?
Or the next time around? I don't
Or
know.
is it you, Tracy?
I just did it. So
Okay.
Oh, you just did it.
I had
We'll have
I
to
had
look.
so much technical difficulties with it, so
Okay.
I know it was
Yeah, we'll
mine.
figure something out.
Yeah. So check it out. One of us will have some pizza going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Going. So
Hi, Rhonda. Sorry I missed the California trivia today. We were running around doing stuff.
Running to cold.
So I think what we're gonna do is we're working on eating these cookies today. That's what we're gonna be working on. But
Oh,
no,
too funny.
seriously.
Yeah.
What do we have going on?
So we have, I have a video that I put together. I made some meatballs for a collaboration that I did for Progressive Meals. And I think we're putting those out tomorrow. So I'll put that out tomorrow. I know, so much content, so little time.
Yeah.
And yes, that is the plan, to do all the Marvel movies, one each week on each of our channels, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
in order of release, not order of timeline, order of release.
Release,
Order of
yeah.
release,
So it's
yes.
next week, Tracy's channel. The week after that, Kenzie, Russ, us. That's the way it's gonna rotate, right?
The circle here.
All right.
Yeah.
Um,
What else do we have?
Happy Mother's Day
I'll
to all
double
the
check with
mothers
Dean to
out
make sure he
there.
knows that.
Thank you for
Yes.
spending your time with us today. We really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Happy
happy
Mother's
Day.
Yeah,
Go and
for sure.
who has to work at eating cookies? I guess it's not really work. It's
I don't know.
it's more fun.
I guess it's sort of fun.
But thank you all for being here and spending part of your Mother's Day with us. We really appreciate it. That was a
Yes.
great conversation.
Yes, lots of fun. I guess I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I
Are you
watched
glad
it.
you watched it?
Yes.
Are you gonna be able to watch Iron Man 2?
Yes, I'll
All
be
right.
able to do it.
Okay.
So, all right.
All right, everyone.
Okay. Well,
All right,
thanks
guys.
for
Have a
joining
good
with us
day.
today,
Enjoy.
and we will see
Happy-
everyone soon.
Have a great rest of your Sunday, everyone.
Happy Mother's Day.
Bye.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Dance it out.